Sharon will tell you, I don't usually get nervous, but I must admit, today I'm nervous. Quite an event for me. It's been 4 years of work, and now I have to find out if people are going to enjoy the book and enjoy the exhibit, and I'm just all uptight. But it's been a tremendous adventure, exciting, and most important, tremendous fun. I have to thank Mark at the Brent, at the University of Goose Lane for having faith in me. And this is my third book. I don't know if they're bears for punishment or seeing if I'm getting it right. And I also thank the museum because once again, their faith in having me put up a second exhibit here. It's been really a tremendous time for me. And as I say, it's come to a head and I'm just quite uptight about it all. And once again, it's one person can't do this, and the support and help I've had, the encouragement from a wide variety of people has been just wonderful. And I hope I've acknowledged them in the book. And here, as pointed out for the exhibit, it was really a teamwork. Ruth, Jim, and I had a tremendous time putting this together. And I have to say thank you very much to Ruth. Even late last night was painting, putting the last paint touches on the wall. When I started, as Mark mentioned, people thought nothing happened here in New Brunswick. Well, it didn't take me long to find that this is wrong. In fact, like always, I always find that history is so much more exciting than fiction. People can't dream up some of the things that have happened. When the war broke out, New Brunswickers were really uptight. They feared for their lives, their families, and their property. There was no doubt in anybody's mind here in New Brunswick that we were going to be invaded. It wasn't a question if, but when. And New Brunswickers reacted promptly, loyally, patriotically, and reached deep in their pocket. I could name something like 24 military establishments around this province. Really amazing when you think of it. And as has been pointed out, we even had our own navy for a short time to try and chase away those American privateers. We even had an armed flotilla on the St. John River. Can you imagine armed boats parked right out here? Can you imagine armed boats in the middle of this river firing a royal salute for King George's birthday? It happened. They were extensive defensive measures taken throughout the province. And this is totally different from what happened in Upper Canada. In Upper Canada, people there were defeated and pessimistic. Why bother trying? The Americans were so big, they're going to take us anyway. Totally different here. And I think we need to point that out, our loyal and patriotic response. Luckily for us, the Americans did not invade. And we had that informal truce that held along the border. And most people say, oh yes, the Americans did invade. But as Mark pointed out, we invaded them. The British invaded them at our instigation. It was our idea. When the war began to tilt in our favor, basically we convinced the British it was a time to sort out the border dispute in our favor. And we occupied northern Maine. On the 3rd of September, 1814, Sherbrooke, the senior British man in this part of the world, announced to the world the border between New Brunswick and Maine was now the Penobscot River. Real handy if we wanted to shop in Bangor. He gave them 6 days in which the people living north of that boundary either swear allegiance to King George or get out. Well, it didn't last that way, but that's another story. And there's so many things to talk about. We know about the March of the 104th. What an amazing feat. 550 men, 20 officers in the dead of winter on snowshoes, pulling toboggans, walked from here to Kingston, Ontario. 1,100 kilometers in an average of 52 days. An amazing feat, no matter how you count it. But in the research, it's the people stories that I find are really exciting. I was lucky enough to come across 6 letters in a museum in Niagara Falls. And they were written to a young officer, Lieutenant Thomas Leonard from St. John, from his family, to him. And one of them I'll mention, the march obviously affected him, and it affected his health. And he wrote a letter home saying, "I am unwell." His mother writes back. And how many mothers do this kind of thing? His mother says, "So, you're unwell. I fear you have neglected to wear your felt vest." No wonder you're sick, you didn't wear your hat. How many mothers have said that in a letter? It makes the war so personal, doesn't it? Yes, the 104th walked up the valley, but they weren't the only one that walked up the valley. The next year, 2 other groups walked up this valley. The regiment that replaced the 104th was the 2nd Battalion, 8th Regiment. They walked up this valley. Interesting story, again, those people stories that intrigued me. The second in command was a man by the name of Major Thomas Evans. Amazing soldier. He had served in the Peninsular War under the Duke of Wellington, and he received 11 mentions of dispatches for service above and beyond. 11! Wounded twice. And he was sent to Canada. And he was on Brock's staff when the war broke out. In June 1813, he was standing on the battlefield of Stony Creek, just near Hamilton, Ontario. Got a tap on the shoulder, and they said, "You have been appointed the 2nd in command of the 2nd Battalion, 8th Regiment. Get your butt up to Fredericton as soon as you can." Or worse to that effect. So he goes across Lake Ontario, up the St. Lawrence River, across the portage down to the Madawaska River, down the Madawaska River, down the St. John River, and comes to Fredericton. He puts in a claim, a travel claim, for traveling 1,214 kilometers. And he asks for 43 pounds, 6 shillings, tuppence. That winter, the 2nd Battalion gets ordered to Fredericton. Someone taps him on the shoulder and says, "You're the 2nd in command, take command of the battalion, put on your snowshoes, and go back to Upper Canada." He did that march twice in 6 months. Isn't that amazing? But there was another group that walked up the river that even fascinates me more. Captain Charles Collier of the Royal Navy marched up this river on snowshoes, leading 217 sailors. The newspapers are full of stories about the brave tars going up to Ontario. But can you imagine those sailors getting their sea legs and snowshoes? I say the stories keep coming and coming, and there's so many to tell. How about stories of murder most foul? Murder right here in this compound.